all you PlayStation fans out there in the PlayStation universe. We're bringing you more E3 2016 coverage, reactions, and impressions from the games we saw and played this week. And I think a topic on everybody's mind out here in our world of PlayStation is PlayStation VR, and specifically all the titles that debuted this week. Well, let's get past Batman, since we've already know that's your premier experience, at least in terms of a tech demo of what it's like to be the Batman. Tell me about Farpoint, though, because Farpoint did win our Best VR Game Award.
It's undeniably their flagship game for VR, especially like you see the presence of the booth out there. But it's also using a new peripheral, which is the PlayStation VR
aim controller.
Yep.
So you went hands on with that kind of minimalist controller. Check out some screenshots. We'll have some stuff up in the video of what that looks like. But essentially, if you can imagine the Killzone gun from back in the day, with the ship with Killzone 3, it's not that. It's like a very minimal, polygonal version of that.
It doesn't use the Move controllers at all. It's its own.
Right. It's a completely based
separate
thing.
entity. Yeah.
So you went hands on with Farpoint. You played basically an entire campaign level minus the surprise appearance of a monster at the end.
Well, yeah, I played the whole demo that they had available, which most people I saw didn't go through that completely.
No,
so
you were just cleaning up. You were
something.
thinning out the alien hordes. So what was it like to be on that red planet and facing the streams of alien creatures coming at you?
Yeah, so this is obviously Farpoint takes place on Mars, as far as we know, and moving through that, there's some aliens that are running around, these spider crab creature things that have there were 5 or 6. I think there were 5 different versions of those creatures, little ones and the bigger ones, and then projectile ones and tank ones, and then the gigantic guy at the end that was 50 feet tall.
What was the experience like to be in that world where you've got your typical virtual reality immersion and head tracking, but then with an extension of yourself, a device that actually plays into that experience?
Yeah, it felt really good. I mean, it honestly didn't. It wasn't as transformative as, thinking back on it, as you would kind of expect. It felt a lot like those just arcade games where you have the guns out there. Yeah. But it just felt like this is what they were meant to be. type of thing.
So it did actually, it at least felt like an extension of yourself to be holding that device up there and see it. How you're moving
you could even hold it up to your face and you could close one eye and go through the iron sights.
That's awesome.
So I was skeptical of that before I did it, and then I did it.
And you had free motion control with the VR aim controllers.
There's an analog stick in the front part of the controller that you move for the movement. It is still kind of weird where you're just standing there and moving around, everything is moving.
But it didn't make you sick.
No, it wasn't motion sickness at all for me. I haven't experienced that yet, fortunately, in anything we've done, but it was something that I would really hope that Sony, almost undoubtedly, they're working on some sort of extra peripheral where you can have a little treadmill thing to run around, that would make it that much better to do. But what was there was extremely solid. We didn't see a lot for story going forward, but there was a little hint at the end. But the whole demo was running through the world using the analog stick. You'd be just basically clearing out some enemies in traditional arcade form, moving forward. Picking up there was one new weapon I found, so there's a shotgun instead of using the regular assault rifle, and then there was grenades that you could get later for the grenade launcher on the shotgun. Switching weapons was really cool because there was no button you pressed. You just literally put it over your shoulder and came back with a new gun.
That's awesome.
So it was really seamless, and it worked really well for that.
It seemed like it was really visceral action. You'd be kind of slowly stalking through a canyon or something like that, and then suddenly have some of those spider-type monsters crawling out from out of you. Was that a thing where you're like, oh god, I'm surrounded, I'm swarmed?
I never was nervous about it. I thought
just
it was
a confident shooter, man.
Well, there was one part where one just flew right by my face, so I kind of ducked out of the way, but I didn't care to turn around and try to find it. Sure. I just kept moving because I figured it would just show up in front of me again, and it never attacked me from behind or anything. So I can't remember if it did come back or disappear, but there was definitely a disconnect in terms of just feeling there. But it still was fun for sure going through that area.
At the very least, it seems to be the most fully realized campaign experience, whereas a lot of PlayStation VR
it's the strongest game for sure for PlayStation VR that's out there. There are a lot of other like the Batman VR thing is still that's really solid is what it is, but we don't know how much of a game that is.
It's more of a proof of concept at this point.
Yeah, so I was going through a series of areas, and then the area, once I finished it, the area would reset. There was a little electronic, Cortana-like voice that chimed in your ear, and then just said environment reset or something like that. And then it would the world would kind of break down digitally, and then it would come back, and then you'd reappear in this next part of the area moving forward. So I don't know how much of that was just because of the demo itself, or how much is going to be like that in the real game.
Like a story focus, right? Something that could be a little more of a simulation, actually.
And you're moving through like the enemies not just like kind of constantly flooding towards you. They did a fun thing where some of them popped up through the sand. Some of them were like there were these caverns. They're like these little openings in the walls all around you, where they would just kind of like you'd have to just pay attention to them scurrying down the wall or like popping out, and then usually they would make some kind of delayed sound, or they'd make a sound to like help you recognize that hey, there's something here.
Something's about to go down. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the other cool thing was the environments that they had, even though it was all on Mars and it was all red and sand the whole time. They had areas that were a little more open with some walls farther out on the side. There was one part where you went into like a cave area, and then there was a natural stone bridge that you had to walk over this big deep canyon from.
So you could look down.
So you could look down and look around. Yeah, a couple of places that I saw where people before me died there was this really really narrow pathway along the edge of a cliff that was almost completely vertical and like drop off, and there was just like sandstorm out on the left.
So straight up, you fall off that cliff, you're done for.
Yeah, basically.
I think I did see the guy in front of you actually take a tumble down there, and can you? Oh, it gives me vertigo just to think about the experience of falling in VR.
Yeah.
And, like,
so the environment's really cool for the area that just the small portion that I played. I'd imagine that they'd get even more diverse. Right before the very end of the demo, I was walking into this big cavern where you saw a bunch of like these egg sacs from the creatures that were all scattered on on the walls and the ceiling, and like this place went on really far and was really deep.
Yeah, for sure.
And 2 astronaut holograms like popped up in front of me, and they had a conversation, so like helping add to the lore of the game and prove that there was a story behind it, not just being like an arcade shooter.
Right, and I think the lore is part of what makes it what you would consider to be sort of the, at least for now, the flagship PlayStation VR exclusive.
If it was just
if
it was just an arcade shooter, I don't know if it would have gotten our award. I think there would have been a different discussion happening. But
for sure,
since it had that, and we talked to the developer afterwards and said that they're focusing on having a good story to go along with this world and this environment that you're exploring. It's
extremely promising for the world of VR because one people's hesitation about any new technology is that it's not going to be supported or really embraced in the way that a true video game would be. But it seems like Farpoint is as true a video game as any.
Right, and I liked the teaser at the end with the giant creature that came out toward you, and I definitely backed up as it was coming out. But it would have been nice to see how the boss fight combat would work in that environment.
You have to strafe and
to see how that works. Like that. But
awesome.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else to add to that. It was a really solid and really fun experience the whole time. Like I could see getting lost and doing that for a few hours and feeling like a badass on Mars.
I can't wait. It seems like an awesome launch title.
Yeah, and just the movement of the controller itself was like perfectly 1-to-1. There was no delay. It didn't feel off. It didn't feel like you were. It felt immediately responsive because you just like I'd see 2 enemies just go pop pop and then they're dead and just keep moving it without any interruption.
To know that about the earliest VR titles, that they've already figured out the 1-to-1 syncing of a gun, of a head, of all those body parts and stuff, that's so promising. Even just thinking about the future of game development,
especially with people that like to talk bad about PlayStation Move in VR just because it's cheaper than the other like PC ones out there. It's like no, they've figured it out and they've got it down. And
where else do you have a fully realized game experience like this?
Yeah, and it looked really beautiful too.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing your thoughts on Farpoint. It's coming to you on PlayStation VR at or near launch from Impulse Gear. Stay tuned for more E3 2016 coverage from our side of things. Peep the comments. Let us know what you think of Farpoint and if it's your most anticipated VR title. And watch for more videos at psu.com.